So I just watched a documentary called American Nightmare about let me go over what the documentary is about. So we have this woman, she's woman and this man, they're dating. The man calls the police and he says, "Look, somebody came into our house last night. They tied us up, kidnapped her. I was drugged. I just woke up." Calling to report it. The police immediately don't believe him. The story is a little convoluted and weird. And so they look at him as the suspect, as they normally do in these types of cases. It's normally the husband or the boyfriend. So they look at him. Days later, or weeks later, something like that, the woman pops up. She comes walking home, and she's like, "Yeah, the guy released me, and he let me go, and I came back home, and that's the story. I was kidnapped, and he just let me go." So the cops are like, "Okay, this is starting to look really weird. We think you're lying as well. Either you're both lying or you're lying, because this is a weird story." And the cops don't believe them. They treat them like suspects instead of victims. And as the story goes on, you find out that they actually were telling the truth. It was this lawyer who was raping women, kidnapped this woman, raped her as well. He finally got caught. And then you go on to find out that the police really didn't do their jobs. They went out of their way to treat the victims like suspects. There was all kinds of news coverage and press releases that these people were lying. Cops were kind of like hiding information or not revealing information, trying to trick people into false confessions, using tactics in order to just close the case the way they thought it should be closed, and just doing all kinds of unscrupulous, what should be illegal, immoral acts in order to just push whatever they thought it was and not really do their job as cops. And I'm watching this, and you know what? I don't care. I don't care anymore. The victims and the perpetrator, all white. Cops, all white. You had some Asians thrown in there for good measure, but all white. And what are you gonna do? I I don't care anymore. Uh, I'm making this now because I don't care. First of all, I see so many. I love documentaries. I watch them all the time. I love getting information. I love giving information. It's something I've loved since I was in my early 20s. I watch a lot of documentaries, and I'd say about 99.9% of the documentaries I watch involving these types of crimes, true crimes, and things like that. The big documentaries, not like the television shows like Cold Case Files, but the big documentaries, they're normally focused on white people. It's like only white people deserve those stories. You have some out there every once in a while about blacks. You have some about Asians as well, but it's normally crimes that happened in Asia. Most of the time, though, the American ones focused on white people. So apparently, I guess it's, crimes happening to white people actually the most important thing to talk about. It's not relevant to talk about it if it's not white people. Also, the news coverage. So this story is outlandish. I'm sorry. This story became a big story because the news covered it, and the news covered it as heavily as they did at the time when it was happening, because the victim was a white woman, and she was blonde. So shit. So the news goes out of their way to cover those stories. That's apparently what the country cares about the most. I don't think I ever remember any big news stories about any black women being kidnapped and trying to find out what happened to them. I can't think of one. I'm sure they exist, but it happens so rarely that it doesn't stick in my mind. I don't remember any. I remember a good number of them with white women, though. All the ones I remember were about white women. And I was saying to myself, these networks, these streaming services always make these documentaries about these white women being kidnapped, And then I started to realize, well, they do that because in order to make a documentary or a film or television series about these things, you need archival footage. You need footage, you need stories, you need press releases, junkets, things. You need access to information that you can use to flesh out this story. You want to be able to show articles, you want to be able to show news clippings, you want to be able to show interviews in order to flesh out whatever you're making, because it's still for entertainment. So you need that. And I started to realize the reason most of these documentaries are focused on these white crimes is because the country and the media and the police, they really put a lot of effort white, into these stories about white criminality, into stories about crime happening against white society. So you have a lot of news coverage when the person is white, a lot of interviews and things like that when the person is white. You have a lot of stuff to use or stuff that you can use to make a documentary or a film series or television series about it. That's probably why so many of them are focused on white people, because society is in general, they focus more on crimes when it's being done against white people. So at this point, white people have so much privilege now. Not now, but people are realizing white people have so much privilege in so many different areas that when crimes happen to them, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to waste my time complaining about the crimes that happen against them, because guys have this system in place that really focuses on empowering and protecting you. When a white girl goes missing, the media goes out of its way to and it's not, let me be fair and honest, it's not like any time a white girl is kidnapped. I want to be honest. There's obviously a lot of white women that get kidnapped or raped, and we don't know about it because it happens so damn much around the world. But a lot of times you don't know about it. But all the major stories, if you're white, you have access to that privilege. So if you're a poor white person, if you go to the news enough and let them know, look, my white child has been kidnapped, they'll do a story and it'll become a big deal. You have access to all this stuff. So why would me, this lowly, pathetic, ugly, one black guy, waste his time worrying about anything happening in white society? I'm kind of irrelevant. You have this whole system that you can utilize if you're smart enough, that you can use to help solve your crimes, to help find the people that have been kidnapped, to go after the police. I mean, you have entire systems put in place that will either help work to exonerate you, protect you, or to just offer you things that you need in general. So when this kind of stuff happens, I don't care anymore. But the main theme of this, which is why it's titled "When Racism Attacks," the main thing I want to talk about is this is and another reason why I don't care anymore. As white people, this is what you wanted. You like to focus on protecting the police when black people come forward and say the police are lying. The police are using their power to silence me, to punish me. The police are just using their resources to destroy my community because it benefits them. They lie, they hide things, they do all kinds of unscrupulous, illegal, immoral acts when it comes to us. And we think that there needs to be some sort of change. White society says, nope, back the blue. Blue lives matter. Protect all police. Believe all police. So when it starts happening to white people, I'm going to follow your tune. And it's obviously not every white person thinks that way or says that, but enough of you do, and we don't know the ones that are pushing back the blue and all that bullshit. We don't know who those people are, but enough of them do it, where it stifles and it destroys any momentum that we try to build in order to fix this system of corrupt policing that is targeting mostly us, but does target everybody. And we try as black people, as we've done for centuries, to fight against this type of injustice. But white society, there's so many of you that are fighting against us We can't get it done. We can't do it because too many people within white society like the fact that black people are being mistreated and that black people are targeted by the justice system and arrested and imprisoned at a high number, at a high rate or higher rate than everyone else for things that should not be crimes, for quote unquote crimes that then turn legal into legal things like selling marijuana, which is now legal. But white society likes to see black people hurt so much. As I've said in other videos, white society will ignore their own pain just to see us hurt. So I don't, when I watch these types of documentaries and the white people are like, we went to the police and the police were lying, they weren't listening to us, they were hiding information, disregarding things that we said, sometimes even protecting the actual suspect or perpetrator. Hey, we tried to tell you that this stuff happens. We tried. We've been telling you this since what, the 40s. Black people have been talking about this, but nobody, white society again, because of their jealousy and their hatred of black people, as long as there's a system in place that targets black people more, even if white people know they're being targeted by that system, as long as they know that it targets black people at a much higher rate, well, they'll deal with it. They'll accept it because at least they know that these black people that they hate so much, at least they know, well, you guys are going to be harmed, and there's a higher possibility that you'll be harmed by this system. And that's what they want, so they'll allow the system to be put in place. So what are we supposed to do? Remember in the 80s when the Central Park Five was targeted by the justice system, the legal system, and the cops? Remember that? 5 innocent children were targeted, and those 5 innocent children, unlike these 2 white people in this documentary, American Nightmare, they didn't just have police lying on them. They just didn't have people saying bad things that hurt their feelings. No, these boys went into jail. They went to prison. I think one of them was assaulted or raped, I think, in prison. And these prison sentences destroyed who these boys were. These boys turned out to be completely different than they would have been if they hadn't gone into prison. And black society came out and said, look, the justice system, the police, you had people like Trump putting out news articles saying that the black children should be arrested. Doesn't matter if they committed the crime or not. Just racism, blind, demonic, white racism, jealousy and hatred, bigotry against these children. They're children. And fuck all, who cared? The white woman in the justice system who purposely put these kids in prison even though she knew that they didn't do it. She's out there to this day free as a bird, rich off of that court case. She's rich because of that court case. She benefited financially. So, we've been trying to tell you guys about this. Khalif Browder is another example. Kid taken off the street. The justice system worked to keep him in jail just because they didn't want to let him go. Just because they didn't want to admit a mistake, they told him they would release him early because they had no reason to keep him in jail, but only if he admitted guilt. When he said, I'm not admitting guilt, I'm telling you I didn't do this, and they had no proof at all, they said, we're going to keep you in prison because you're black. So he stayed in prison where this kid was tortured, beaten, abused. Who knows what else happened to this kid? He was traumatized so much from this jail stay that when he finally did get out and started getting his life in order, the trauma was just so much, he was like, I can't deal with this. And he just killed himself, hung himself, wrapped a cord around his neck, jumped out of a window just to end the pain. And this stuff happens to us so much, it's not funny. Again, I use this example all the time. I'm using it again just in case new people are watching. There's a police captain in Florida. His name is Raimundo Atesiano. He decided, you know what, I want to use this system that's been put in place where police can use black people to close cases in order to advance their own career and make more money for themselves. So he told his officers, look, we have some crimes that we can't close. Go find random black men and just frame them. Just lie and frame them. Pin the crime on these men who we know are innocent. Just pick up random men and say that they did it, and because they're black, everyone will go along with it. We'll close those cases. We'll get promotions and make more money for ourselves. That's what happens in the justice system. This is just a real world example where a cop happened to get caught in the act. Black people have been saying, look, we need police reform. We need to do something about this whole system because it's fucked. It's got to be changed. White society was like, no, back the blue. Fuck the niggers and back the blue. Because we hate black people so much and we're so jealous of them that we want to keep this system in place where we know black people will be harmed. And we like watching black people get harmed. So we're going to fight. We're going to fight to keep black people from being able to reform this system. So when things happen and the cops start doing this type of stuff to you white people, should I care? Should us black people care? We told you what was going on and what was happening, and we tried to reform it. Tried to work to reform it. We tried to use our voices to reform this system to get justice for all of us. But you guys didn't want that, so guess what? This kind of stuff is gonna happen. It's gonna keep happening. This white guy was walking around, and before I even talk about that, this is a very disturbing thing I heard. There was a police officer who was viewed as a hero in this story because she did something heroic. She worked to try to make sure that to try to find out who this rapist had attacked in the past. She worked and she got it done, and she's one of the reasons why we got the ending to this story that we got. And again, she is viewed as a hero, and she was a hero. She's one of the good guys, apparently. But I want you to listen to something one of the good guys said.
He looks relatively normal, like your average all-American white male adult.
And this is very disturbing because this isn't a white racist thing. This is just a really disgusting byproduct of white supremacy in general because it affects all of us. It affects everyone of every race, even black people. Because of the crime of white supremacy, propaganda has been used to make everyone genuinely believe that when you see these types of faces, that this is your normal average person. What that means is when society sees these types of people, they don't see criminality. They don't see it. And that's thanks to white supremacy, white racism. They don't see a criminal. They never will. So these types of men get away with all kinds of crimes because society and the police, the society, including the justice system and the police, don't view them as criminals. They look the other way. They ignore certain things. So this guy went around assaulting and raping multiple women. and most of it happened within white society. And it happens because you guys, because of white racism, you guys ignore certain things when it's done by certain people. And so you have these criminals walking around doing all kinds of things, and you ignore them and focus on innocent black people just living their lives. You just stop black people walking home and say, what are you doing walking home? Let me see your ID. What did I do? I think you're a suspect, so just show me your ID. Sit down on the floor and show me your ID. And they harass innocent black people, and white society is okay with it, while they ignore these white criminals, and white society is okay with it. So when those criminals who are being ignored by the cops so that the cops can spend your resources and their time harming and harassing innocent black people for fun, while they're doing that, they're letting the criminal walk around and walk into your house at night, rape you, kidnap you, beat you, rob you. And you guys just, and you guys know this and you understand this, but again, because of your jealousy and your racism and your hatred of black people, you want this system to continue. You like having that privilege of, well, I can be a criminal, but people won't view me as a criminal. And I don't like black people, so I'll use them to be the scapegoat and I'll watch them get attacked. But just remember, every now and then, that criminality is going to hit you too. It's going to affect you too. And if that's the way you want it, that's the way it's going to be. White power.